Hey, how's it going? So you may have heard there's an election on tomorrow, and we're going to talk about it. So we're going to do this in my normal fashion. I'm going to do this in one cut. There's going to be a lot of ums, uhs, weird pauses, maybe some coughs, and I might misspeak a couple times, but we'll get through it, and it'll be fun. So let's talk about why you should vote for President Trump if you haven't voted already, and I'm sure most of you have. I have, but if you haven't, let's make a case for voting for President Trump. First and foremost, a vote for President Trump is a vote for America. I think a vote for Joe Biden, well, I don't think that Joe Biden is anti American. I don't think that's fair. But I think that a lot of people who have a lot of influence in the Democratic Party are borderline anti America, at least anti America as we know her. And they want to change America into something that it's not. The Chuck Schumers, Nancy Pelosi's, Bernie Sanders, AOC, Rashida Tlaib's, those people who are gaining more influence, well, AOC's and Rashida Tlaib's at least, I think that they have a lot of influence on a future President Biden. Biden's been in office, or was in office for what, 47 years total? And it's something like 20% of our nation's history. And during that time, President Biden, or Vice President Biden, or previously Senator Biden, shifted with the political wind. He just kind of blew in the wind and did whatever was politically expedient at the time. He's not a principled guy. He's not a principled politician. He talks on the stump as if he's a vote for normalcy or whatever the hell that means. But he's not a roadblock to the far left. He's just not. He appointed Kamala Harris as his vice president nominee. She's the most left-leaning senator in the United States Senate. That's not like a boogeyman thing. That's just the truth based on her voting record. If you listen to the things that she says, she is radically far left. And Joe Biden doesn't seem to be necessarily all there. So, I don't know. I don't think that anybody should vote for Joe Biden. But let's talk about President Trump. So President Trump's been president for the last 4 years. And in that 4 year time, he hasn't started a single new war. That's a pretty big accomplishment. Now, I remember back in 2016 when he was running for president, and we kept on hearing that he was a megalomaniac who was going to be the next Hitler, and he was going to start World War III and all of that. But that never happened. He has tried to usher in peace. Now, maybe some of this is because of his personality. Now, again, I understand that a lot of people don't like President Trump. I understand that he is brash and he is petty and he is full of himself and all of these things. And some of that's not great. And his tweeting is not great. But on the record, he's been a damn good president. And I think a lot of you who maybe don't fully know what President Trump's record looks like actually support President Trump, but you don't know that you do. So, again, he started no wars. He also has been trying to usher in peace. Now, maybe some of that's for selfish reasons, like he wants to be the guy who did this and this and this, but who cares? Who cares why? It doesn't matter. He attempted to bring peace with North Korea. I feel like that has not gone amazingly and maybe a bit futile, but certainly our relationship with North Korea is better today than it was this time 4 years ago. North Korea is not testing missiles and nuclear weapons like they were. Kim Jong-un is still a nutcase, and like I thought he died, or I thought he was about to die a few months ago, but I guess he's better. I don't really know. But our relationship there is a little better, but more importantly, our relationship in the Middle East. So President Trump was nominated for several Nobel Peace Prizes. One of them was for bringing these peace deals between Iran and other small Arab nations, like the UAE. Now, I know the UAE and Israel have not been in a shooting war, but they haven't been at peace necessarily. And as part of this deal, Israel is flying passenger jets to the UAE, and they're overflying Saudi Arabia, which is also a big deal because for literally ever, Israel was not allowed to fly over Saudi airspace. In fact, I remember there were people who were telling me, and I mean, I don't have firsthand knowledge of this, but if you were a person who traveled between Israel and the US and Saudi Arabia and the US, you got temporary passport pages for your entrance and exit visas to Israel because you didn't want that in your passport when you went through Saudi customs. Things were bad, and things are better now. And President Trump is, to some degree, responsible for that. I mean, like, not completely, of course, but he is helping make that happen. More foreign policy stuff. Our NATO allies are paying more. Our NATO allies. So NATO, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, was created as a pact between countries to defend each other if the communists were to get froggy, basically, right? Then the counter to that was the Warsaw Pact, which involved the Soviet Union and some other Eastern European bloc countries and whatever. And NATO has existed since then, and we have added some NATO countries and kind of grown in scope. But the US pays the lion's share of the budget. And we have, or President Trump has convinced France, Germany, China, France, Germany, the UK, other partner countries to pay more. And that's been a net win. Pulled us out of the Paris Climate Accords. So the Paris Climate Accords, if you're on the far left, you think it's like the greatest thing since sliced bread. But basically what it is a bunch of countries got together and said they would do XYZ things in order to lower global carbon emissions. And the US has continued to lower carbon emissions while not being hampered by the silly restrictions of the Paris Climate Accords. And part of the Paris Climate Accords, if we're going to do XYZ thing, we need the other countries to be just as accountable. And there's no way to really prove or substantiate that they are. The Paris Climate Accords would cost Americans jobs. They would hurt our economy. And so being out of that's a good thing. The Iran nuke deal, we pulled out of that. Basically, the Obama administration traded a plane load of cash for an agreement from Iran to possibly not enrich uranium, maybe for the use in a weapon, kind of. So, yeah, just we're not part of that anymore. We're not going to give them money and then not be allowed to inspect and all of this stuff. We also got the USMCA, which is the replacement for NAFTA. That's been a win for the US. We pulled out of the TPP. And on foreign policy, there's been other things. We have a deal with the European Union to increase exports. Trump imposed sanctions on Venezuela. The government there has been pretty crappy, killing their citizens. And, well, it's communism. That's what happens. We defeated ISIS. I know this is kind of like a weird thing. When President Obama was responsible for killing Osama bin Laden, I gave him credit. Like, he's the commander in chief. That is an Obama accomplishment, and it is a good thing. Although Joe Biden was against it, interestingly. President Trump gets the same credit for killing Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi and defeating ISIS. That's just how it works. He's the commander in chief. He's the one who sets the foreign policy. The foreign policy. He's the one who drives that. So that is definitely a Trump thing. So on foreign policy, President Trump's been pretty awesome. Domestically, let's look at the economy. So the economy, we have to kind of look at it as before coronavirus. So the last 9 months or so has been really dictated by COVID. And the thing is that every country on earth has been just as hampered by COVID. It's not uniquely an American problem. Every single economy has suffered. And I would say that our economy has suffered a lot less than some, or than most, really. But if you look at what was going on before COVID, our economy was gangbusters. I mean, it really was. Well, let's look at some things. So more than 400,000 manufacturing jobs were created. Manufacturing jobs were growing at the fastest rate in 30 years. The stock market reached record highs. Median household incomes was at the highest level ever recorded. I think that between 2016 and 2019, median household income grew by 9%. And between 2009 and 2016, it grew by 5%. And remember, President Obama took office at the bottom of a recession. Like, the economy was literally rock bottom. And during his 8 years, wages grew 5%. During Trump's 3 years, they grew 9%. African American unemployment was at an all-time low. Hispanic American unemployment was at an all-time low. Asian American unemployment was at an all-time low. Women's unemployment rate was at a 65-year low. Youth unemployment was at a 50-year low. We had the lowest unemployment rate ever recorded as a country. 95% of U.S. manufacturers were optimistic about the future, the highest ever. He cut regulation. He was very pro-business. The Trump tax plan had a bunch of things in it, and it lowered the tax burden for most people. We'll talk about that in just a second. But it also lowered the corporate tax rate. I believe it went from 35% to 21%, maybe 23%. I don't remember. That is a boon to economy, or to businesses. Also, everybody who pays taxes pretty much paid less taxes under the Trump tax plan. Now, I remember there was this big thing with all these articles about, well, I'm getting less back in my return. And so this was apparently supposed to be someone saying that the Trump tax plan isn't working and they're paying more taxes. Well, I think we need to get rid of income tax withholding. I posted on Facebook about that yesterday or the day before, that if people just had to pay taxes, they would see how much they're paying. But let's say that you make $100,000. Okay, that's a lot of money, but let's say you make $100,000 and you pay $22,000 in federal income tax. And I have no idea what you would actually pay. That seems probably a bit high, but let's say you do. And let's change it to an easier number. Let's say $24,000. So you pay $24,000 in federal income tax, and you get $600 withheld from your paycheck, and you're paid twice a month. So you have 24 pay periods. You have $600 withheld from your paycheck each week, or each pay period. Well, 600 times 24, what's that? I think it's $26,400. So you have $26,400 in withholdings, and your tax burden is $24,000. So you're going to get $2,400 back. Now, let's say that Trump lowered the tax rate so that your tax burden is only $21,000. And now you are only getting $450. I don't think that's going to quite be enough. We'll say $500. You're getting $500 withheld from your paycheck every week. Your return is going to be less money, because now you're only getting $2,000 back, but you're only paying $22,000 in taxes. So you're paying less taxes, but you're getting a smaller return. You're having more money in your paycheck every week. That is basically what happened with the Trump tax plan. Anyway, so everybody's paying less taxes, and that's been good for everybody. There's been less regulation and the recovery. So I believe the economy recovered in this last quarter like 30%. That's a massive recovery. And that is because the fundamental basis of the economy is really strong. And so when we start reducing all this COVID lockdown stuff, the economy comes roaring back. Other things domestically, the First Step Act, which is criminal justice reform. And there's been a lot of other things going on with this, but it reduces mandatory minimum sentences. It reduces the disparity between sentencing guidelines for crack and cocaine, which has always been used as like a way to say that the system's racist. And so that's no longer a thing. It helped increase early release and helping people get released from prison early. We created, or the government's created opportunity zones. They've worked with, I forgot what it was called, but there was an act that was passed that directly helps employers work with former inmates to get them jobs and help them get a step in the right direction. So there's been a lot of things there. Um, the Trump administration has been really hard on human trafficking. I think I already mentioned that, but the Ivanka has spearheaded this human trafficking campaign to really crack down on that, and the Trump administration has done that. VA and veteran care. So this is a big one. So under the Obama administration, there was all these stories, and I'm not blaming Obama, but there were all these stories about veterans dying in like really horrible situations, and veterans getting Legionnaire's disease, and all of these just grossly mismanaged things happening at the VA. Well, the Trump administration created a hotline that goes directly to the White House. They created a White House, it's not a cabinet level position, but like just below that level position, where someone is directly responsible for fixing the VA, and the quality of care at the VA has improved dramatically under President Trump. President Trump has increased funding for historically black colleges and universities. That's real racist of him. I keep on hearing he's racist, so that doesn't sound very racist. He's done a lot to lower the prescription drug costs. He spearheaded that Right to Try Act, which I don't know the details of, but I think gives terminally ill patients the right to try medicines that aren't necessarily FDA approved. There's been so many different things that have happened domestically, and I mean, as far as energy goes, we're energy independent. We are a net oil exporter for the first time ever. So there's been a lot of stuff with that. Oh, let's see, what else? The First Step Act, already said that. Well, anyway, so that's a pretty good synopsis of Trump's record, right? I mean, he's been pretty good. So there's a lot of misconceptions. Like you keep on hearing that Trump is a white supremacist. Okay, Trump is clearly not a white supremacist. There's tons of stories about Trump getting like awards and all this stuff. Like there's that picture of him with like Jesse Jackson and Al Sharpton and Rosa Parks getting some award back in the 80s. Trump has met privately with like Jim Brown and Ray Lewis and all of these other people, Lil Wayne recently, and has tried to like genuinely listen to what these people have to say and try to take steps that are meaningful to help get people off the streets and get people into jobs and get people out of that like rotating door of the prison system, to try to make these communities better. Trump has been doing that. All these people who think Trump is like anti-gay. Well, first off, Trump was pro-gay marriage long before Joe Biden was. Trump was pro-gay marriage in the 90s. That's pretty progressive, actually. Trump has appointed, I believe, 7 gay ambassadors. And the ambassador that he appointed to Germany, I forgot his name, but he's openly gay. And Trump has that guy spearheading a campaign to decriminalize homosexuality across the world, because there's a lot of countries where being gay is actually still criminalized. And Trump is spearheading a campaign to get rid of that, that paradigm where being gay is illegal in some places. Trump provides HIV, the Trump administration provided HIV prevention drugs free to 200,000 uninsured patients. I don't know if that's necessarily like proves that he's like not anti-gay, but that certainly doesn't go against that thing. I guess he has appointed 5 openly gay ambassadors, and the German guy's name is Rick Grinwell. Anyway, there are so many misconceptions about the things that Trump says, and things that are taken out of context, like there were good people on both sides. He did say that. Right before he said that, like literally the sentence before he said that, he said, "I condemn white supremacists. I condemn the KKK and neo-Nazis." Then he said there were good people on both sides, and what he was talking about was this thing that was called the Unite the Right rally, where there were apparently people, and I don't know, I wasn't there, I was in Seattle when this all happened, but there were apparently people who were there to protest the tearing down of a statue. I think it was Robert E. Lee, I don't know. And he was talking about those people. Now, I don't know if they were there. I don't really know, but that's what he was talking about. He wasn't saying that the white supremacists were good people. That is just simply a lie. What else? So, lastly, back to Joe Biden. Joe Biden has no backbone. Joe Biden has no he has no principles. He doesn't stand for anything. President Trump stands for making America better. He wants to return America to this like crown jewel of the world that we were, and that maybe we've fallen down a little bit. And that's what he's been trying to do. Now, you may not agree with everything, but President Trump loves America. Joe Biden wants to change things in America. And maybe not so much Joe Biden, but the people supporting Joe Biden. If you look at, judges, that's another thing. President Trump has nominated so many textualist and originalist judges to the court, like Amy Coney Barrett. These people, they say that they want to interpret the law as the law was written, and they want to apply that. They don't want to change the law based on their own personal beliefs. However, a lot of people on the left think that the court should be an extension of the legislature. So the legislature makes laws, and if they can't get laws passed through the legislature the way they want, they have the court system to force it through. And that's kind of what happened with Roe versus Wade. I'm not going to sit here. I'm actually pretty pro-choice, but I think Roe versus Wade is bad law, and I can make that whole argument about that later. But a lot of the left-leaning politicians, they think that the court system is there to get things through that did not get through the legislature. So they think that a judge should look into their heart and see like morally what they think, and then apply that to a law. And that's kind of the way Ruth Bader Ginsburg was. I mean, the judges that Trump has appointed don't want that. They want to read the Constitution, they want to read a law and apply it as it was written. And there are ways to change the Constitution. There are ways to change laws, and they believe that you should go that route, as opposed to having these judges who are not elected, who are not accountable to anybody, who then make law. And that's pretty dangerous. And I think that a lot of the people in power on the left, they want that. They want to pack the court because they feel like they're not getting their way. So they want to add more seats at the Supreme Court. They want to add senators. So they want to add states to the union so that they have more senators, so that they have more influence in the Senate. They want to do things like get rid of the filibuster. And they keep on changing the rules. If you remember with Harry Reid and the nuclear option, what that was, back with appointing nominees, federal nominees back in, I think, 2012. It was before the Republicans gained control of the Senate. I believe, I don't remember the exact details, but I believe that you needed 60% of the Senate to pass a nominee, and then Harry Reid invoked what was called the nuclear option to lower that to 51%. And that was that had a lot to do with why the Republicans refused to nominate what was that guy's name? Neil Gorsuch. And yeah, either way, the Democrats keep on wanting to change the rule book, and the Republicans want to keep things the way that they were. And I believe that President Trump has a record that he can stand on. And we know what a President Trump presidency looks like, and it's been pretty damn good. Again, the tweeting and all of that stuff's not great, but overall, his time in office has been a success. And lastly, let's talk about COVID. I forgot about this. So, President Trump has done something amazing during COVID. He has had an opportunity to grab power, and he is not. Now, he's always accused of being a fascist. President Trump's a fascist. He's a dictator. He's doing all these things. But he hasn't been. He has let the states, for better or worse, set their own policy. Back when things were real bad in New York, President Trump did his best to provide the things that Andrew Cuomo asked for, right? He said, I need ventilators. I need a hospital. I need more hospital beds. President Trump sent, USS Mercy or whatever it was, or USNS, I don't know what the hell it's called. He sent that. That was parked in New York Harbor. It had like 3 patients on it. He got the ventilators. He got the ventilators made, but he did not use that, I forget what it was called, but that act that allows the president to take over manufacturing. He didn't use that to dictate to companies what they had to do. President Trump has reduced regulations to help this Operation Warp Speed to get a vaccine, but he hasn't dictated anything. He hasn't made national mandates. He hasn't done all of this stuff. He's actually let states do what they're going to do. And what works for Florida isn't what works for New York. And what works for New York isn't what works for South Dakota. And every state's different. And the people at the local level have a better idea of what the people in that state want and what the people in that state will tolerate and what the people in that state need. And they're more accountable. So here in Arizona, we have Governor Ducey. And Governor Ducey is accountable to the people of Arizona more than President Trump is accountable to the people in Arizona. So if Governor Ducey handles coronavirus poorly and he creates some policy that the people in Arizona don't like, it is much easier for the people in Arizona to punish Governor Ducey than it is for the people in Arizona to punish President Trump. President Trump has not been a dictator. He has not been a tyrant. He has showed an incredible amount of restraint in that. Now, again, I give President Trump, like I've said this many times, on handling coronavirus, like I give the president somewhere between a B+ to an A-. I don't know what he could have done differently. Like I don't know what a Joe Biden or a President Obama or a Hillary Clinton or anybody else, I don't know what they would have done differently. I do know that if you look at the states where coronavirus has been the worst, it's mostly been blue states, mostly. That may have more to do with population density and where the big cities are than anything, although Texas is pretty low on that list and has a lot of big ass cities. New York City, Massachusetts, New Jersey are like the 3 worst states, and they're all far, far left. And other states that have big populations like Florida and Texas and Arizona are not anywhere near as bad. So, whatever, we can get into that. But the point is that what I can't see what President Trump could have done differently. He locked down the country from China back in January. He locked down the country from Europe back in March. That cost me a vacation. I was pretty pissed about it. Don't get me wrong. I was supposed to go to Iceland literally a week after that happened, and I didn't get to go. And he did promote this 14-day stay home shutdown to slow the spread. And that has now shifted. This 14 days to slow the spread. It was supposed to be like, we wanted to prevent this big spike, right? And we wanted to create like a longer arc where here's the maximum hospital capacity and everybody's below that. And that would prevent excess death. And as far as I know, according to Dr. Fauci, not a single person in the United States has died because there wasn't care available. Now, people died at the beginning because we didn't understand the disease as well. And now that we have a better handle on the disease, less people are dying just simply because of that. And In New York City, the hospitals were pretty well overrun, and some other places, but they were never overrun to where there were people not able to get care. That never happened. And that was the whole goal, right? So now you have a situation, I think, where you have big spikes in some places at the beginning, and those people in New York City, like many people got coronavirus who don't know they got coronavirus, right? And so that caused, in my assumption, my understanding of everything, that caused like a little bit of a what's that called? Where you have an immunity, herd immunity. So many people got it at once that it created a little bit of herd immunity, and that slowed the spread, that caused it to trickle off. Whereas other places like Arizona, we had a longer arc where once it started to get bad here, then we started locking down. And so the amount of population that got it in New York City, that percentage didn't get it here. And so it extended things. And now things here are better. And now you look at the states that weren't hit really at all. Now they're experiencing that. And you look at Europe right now, in Europe, they're having a second wave. They're having a massive second wave that we're seeing some of in America, but not exactly the same. This is a global problem. And President Trump did not handle this uniquely poor. He just didn't. And blaming President Trump for it, like, you can blame President Trump for rhetoric all day long. His rhetoric has been awful. I give him a solid F on rhetoric. But on policy, he's been pretty good. There's not much he could have done differently. This is a global pandemic. It affected everybody just the same. And the United States is not uniquely bad. We are testing so many people. And we're doing this while not violating principles that are American. So we're not mandating forced shutdowns of everything necessarily. In some places they are, and that's up to the local government. That's not up to the federal government. We're not forcing people to wear masks. Here's the thing. In America, I think most people are wearing masks. When things start getting bad where they are, people choose to wear a mask whether there's a mandate or not. And but we just inherently have freedom here. Like, that's a founding principle of America that doesn't exist in other places like Germany or the UK. The people there don't have freedom like we do. And so the mentality of people there is a little different. But either way, the point is that President Trump did not handle the coronavirus uniquely bad. President Biden wants to lock everybody down. He says that. Now, I don't think he has the authority to do that, but he wants to do that. And I think that would be pretty destructive. I think that would be bad for the economy. It's going to make people suffer more. I don't know that the average American can afford that. How do we pay for that? So either way, that's my pitch. I think you should vote for President Trump if you haven't voted already. Whether you like him or not, I think that President Trump is by far the best option. I think he's been a pretty good president. I think his rhetoric has been pretty bad, but his actions and his policies have been very good, and he has been a net positive for America. And again, he hasn't started any wars, and that's pretty important to me. So thanks for listening. Have a good one.